And we are back. This is part two of the 49ers roster analysis following the Eagles win before the game against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. The mic did cut out there at the end of part one, so hopefully a lot of you are still with me and we can finish this up with the mic now working here in part two. I think I just accidentally unplugged one of these connections here. It's a wired mic. I don't have anything wireless right now, and it's kind of clipped onto me and just didn't work out. So sorry about that. I was talking about the 49ers offensive line, which got a solid A grade for me in this game against the Eagles. I mean, these guys were just good throughout the football game, with one exception, and that was the start of the game, Daniel Brunskill at right guard. The 49ers have long struggled against elite interior defensive linemen. So these three technique tackles, especially go back to Chris Jones in the Super Bowl. But that season earlier, you had Grady Jarrett from the Falcons giving the 49ers trouble. Aaron Donald gives everybody trouble, but obviously the 49ers, whenever they beat the Rams, it's usually because they neutralize Aaron Donald to some extent. Whenever they lose to the Rams, they completely fail to block Aaron Donald. So it's very important for interior offensive linemen to at least slow down pressure coming up the middle, and that could be tough in the context of the 49ers offense because their guards, especially Daniel Brunskill, a former tight end at San Diego State, are typically smaller than the NFL average. I ended the previous video, part one. So if you're just signing into part two right now, make sure you watch part one. I ended the previous one talking about how the 49ers really, really were wishing that be ready to deliver immediately this season. He's a bigger bodied guy, and they thought that because of his movement ability that he showed playing high school basketball and then playing and starring at Notre Dame, they thought that Aaron Banks' big body with the requisite athleticism would be able to slow down some of these elite interior edge rushers who just get on there in the middle and use a combination of power and athleticism to blow by whatever the 49ers have put there at right guard over the past couple of years. That position has been the biggest weakness on this 49ers offense. I mean, it cost them the Super Bowl. It's cost them other games, and they invested that second round draft pick in Aaron Banks to make that stop. Maybe Aaron will still develop into that type of player that helps the 49ers down the road, but that's besides the point right now. At the moment, we know that Aaron Banks is not that player yet, and Daniel Brunskill is going to have to do the job. It was really tough against Javon Hargrave, who's been one of the best three technique defensive linemen in the NFL so far this season. And I mean, he's been good in years prior too. But Hargrave has really taken off this year. He had an awesome week one against Atlanta, and then he was really good against the 49ers in week two. Did Hargrave jump off sides on that first play in week two? It looks like it if you look at the replay. But at the same time, I mean, that guy was just firing off the ball. That guy was creating issues for the 49ers. And you have to be ready on play one for those defensive linemen to be antsy, to get off the ball really quickly in a noisy environment where the offensive cadence is compromised. Daniel Brunskill unfortunately got beaten a couple times early in that game, and that was a big reason why the 49ers just weren't in sync offensively to start against the Eagles. The reason that I don't dock the 49ers any portion of this grade here, maybe they could have gotten an A plus, but they'll have to stay at an A. But the reason they're not at an A minus or a B plus is because in a lot of ways we expected it to be a slow start against Philadelphia. You watched this show last week. It was one of my main themes that this was going to be a feeling out process for the 49ers just because they didn't know what type of defensive fronts the Eagles would line up in. There was tremendous unfamiliarity with the Eagles coaching staff, who doesn't have any coordinators from prior to 2021. I mean, all of these guys were behind the scenes assistants. They weren't the play callers at their previous stops, from Nick Sirianni to Jonathan Gannon. So the 49ers weren't sure if they're going to see a 4-3 or a 3-4 front. Daniel Brunskill wasn't sure how Javon Hargrave would align on the first play. And I'll give Daniel Brunskill credit for making the adjustments as they were needed throughout the course of the game. Now, did Brandon Graham getting hurt help the 49ers? They had to play, one of the best edge rushers in football. I think Brandon Graham it falls into that category for 29 minutes. Then he tore his Achilles. Of course, it helped the 49ers over the past 31 minutes, over the second 31 minutes of that game. But what also hurt the Eagles and helped the 49ers is that the 49ers offensive line was able to string together enough success, even when shit was just hitting the fan and stuff wasn't good at the start of the game, to turn shorter drives, those 3-and-outs, into eventual longer drives, those 90-plus yard drives. And that wore down the Philadelphia defense as the game wore on. Remember, this was a hot summer, humid Philadelphia day. It wasn't September 21st yet. It was 80-plus degrees. And as the 49ers racked up plays on those 80-plus yard drives, they started to take control of the arm wrestling match up front. And that's where this offensive line really did some work and allowed the 49ers to win this game. This all culminated in 4 successful quarterback sneaks. Most of the credit there goes to Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows how to run that quarterback sneak. But there's also a vanguard of defenders or offensive players there in the middle, moving defenders back, and Alex Mack, Laken Tomlinson, and yes, the man we're talking about, Daniel Brunskill, to make it all happen. In totality, 49ers offensive line gets an A. In summary, as we look at what they have right now, Trent Williams is leading the league in Pro Football Focus grade. Laken Tomlinson is blocking well. Alex Mack has one of the highest pass blocking efficiency scores in the NFL. Daniel Brunskill, definitely the weak link of that offensive line, but even he was a big contributor in the 49ers win. And Mike McGlinchey is playing a whole lot better, especially in pass protection, than he had in years prior. You have to be happy with this 49ers offensive line, who is in the top 5 in the NFL through 2 weeks in pass block win rate after finishing number 26 in each of the past 2 seasons. Will that continue? We'll see. But the Packers don't have much of a pass rush without Zadarius Smith. So I think the 49ers are in good shape as we enter week 3. All right, now we're going to go to the 49ers defensive line. There we go. The grade is a B- for the game against the Eagles. Ultimately, the 49ers defensive line got the job done. They collapsed the pocket in the second half. Nick Bosa had 2 sacks. Eric Armstead has been very good this year. His power is pushing the pocket and affecting the quarterback at a top 3 rate in the NFL. That pass rushing efficiency score for Armstead is very high because it's just pressure after pressure after pressure. It's helping guys like Dee Ford, guys like Nick Bosa eat, helping guys like Kentavious Street eat when he's in the football game. So Kentavious Street has improved as a pass rusher. That's been nice for the 49ers. And Javon Kinlaw, even though he's not much of a pass rusher, he came in and he made a difference for the San Francisco 49ers in this football game. You'll notice that the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they're a much better team than the Detroit Lions, were not able to run up the middle with the same effectiveness as Detroit did. And that's because the combination of Javon Kinlaw and DJ Jones, who's having his best season yet so far, he's been great against the pass and the run. Those 2 guys are beef up the middle, and especially Kinlaw. God, that guy, he's just not a normally sized human being. It was much harder for the Eagles to push the 49ers around with their guards than it was for the Lions to do so, and that made the job a lot easier for the 49ers linebackers. Now, there were blemishes in this game from the 49ers defensive line. Dee Ford failed to hold contain on Jalen Hurts on a big run to the outside. I don't think there was that great of pass rushing push in the first half while the Eagles were playing a little bit better. Because of that, D'Amico Ryans, 49ers defensive coordinator, had to blitz a whole heck of a lot. And I thought a lot of those blitzes, there were some safety blitzes. There were some Fred Warner linebacker blitzes. I think Azeez Al-Shaair came a couple times. A lot of those blitzes were rather suicidal. They were like, okay, we're going to expose ourselves on the back end because we're trying to bring so many guys against the quarterback. And, when you looked at all of that in totality, you have to blame the defensive line for not being able to get pressure with 4 early in that game. But when you try to blame the defensive line, you have to also look at who they're rushing against. And that Philadelphia offensive line, I guarantee you, is going to go down as one of the best in football by the end of this season if they stay healthy. Jordan Mailata, a very good left tackle. He's the Australian Trent Williams, as John Middlecoff said on this show in our game preview last week. Brandon Brooks, right guard, he got hurt, but he's a very big, strong, good player. I think the 49ers benefited from his injury in that football game. Isaac Seumalo, left guard, also a strong football player right there against the 49ers interior pass rush, which obviously isn't as suited toward pass rushing as it is toward run defense. So he was able to hold the 49ers off there. Jason Kelce, center, former All-Pro. He strings that whole line together. Also, a good presence on the interior. And Lane Johnson at right tackle has the best pass blocking efficiency score in all football so far this year. He was working against D Ford and whoever the 49ers brought against that right side. That's a really good Philadelphia offensive line. So it's no surprise to me that the 49ers had their hands full for a lot of this game. But the 49ers, despite making some mistakes, despite having the blitz, despite not being that overwhelming pass rush that we're used to them seeing, they did show signs of their old selves when the game was on the line in the second half. They did wear Philadelphia down. And I mean, I'm talking DJ Jones ramming through that line, even while he's being held. I'm talking those two Nick Bosa sacks. I'm talking Kentavious Street, who's really shown up in a big way as far as pass rushing goes. These guys deserve a B, B minus. Wasn't a perfect score, but I guarantee you, defensive line's going to look a whole lot better against the Green Bay Packers this week because that Packers line doesn't have David Bakhtiari. They might not have Elkton Jenkins. They no longer have all-pro center Corey Linsley, who's now with the Chargers. It's going to be time for this 49ers defensive line to eat, maybe in similar fashion to how they did in 2019, twice against the Packers. So I expect this defensive line grade to be much higher next week. Let's put the pressure on those guys because I think it needs to be higher against the worst offensive front. 49ers linebackers. They were missing Dre Greenlaw against the Eagles. So if we take a look at the linebacker room right now, I'm going to have to scroll down for you so we could see this a little bit better. We're on the offense right now. Niners linebackers right here. You have Fred Warner, Aziz Al-Shire, Demetrius Fowles, Marcel Harris as your four active players against the Eagles. We'll see what they do against the Packers. I was semi-surprised the 49ers didn't bring up Nate Gary from the practice squad because I thought Marcel Harris was more hurt than he was being questioned. The 49ers would want depth there for special teams. But Marcel ended up being okay and healthy enough to play, so the 49ers didn't bring Gary up. It's more about these three guys right here, though. Warner, Al-Shire, and Flanagan Fowles, especially Warner and Al-Shire. 49ers had to use Warner to blitz a lot, but I thought he did a good job in pass coverage when he was called to do that. They obviously sniffed out the Philly special. That was a play where you definitely want Warner commanding guys around the field. You love his experience there. And boy, there was a couple play stretch there around that time, I think right before that, along the goal line where Warner had a pass breakup and then a tackle on a running play where he showed his versatility. Awesome football player. The blitzing is also good from him. Can't go to that well too many times, though. And Al-Shire, he missed a couple tackles. Wasn't perfect, but that guy flies around the field. And the 49ers are going to need guys flying around the field. If you listen to part one, Aaron Rodgers, and all that stupid air yard stuff people talk about with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Aaron Rodgers against the 49ers, you can't make this up, by the way. In 2019, averaged negative 0.7 completed air yards per attempt. So his average completion was behind the line of scrimmage. If that happens again, because the 49ers defense is so overwhelming up front as far as the pass rush goes and Rodgers has to get rid of it quick, if that happens again, you're going to see a lot of Robert Tonyan. You're going to see a lot of Devontae Adams. You're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones, the Packers running back, catching the ball very close to the line of scrimmage. That's going to mean that the 49ers linebackers, such as Aziz Al-Shire, have to fly to the football, and they have to be very, very good tacklers. Al-Shire can't miss a couple tackles again in this game. So A- for the Eagles game. I mean, you can't be mad at the 49ers defense. They gave up 11 points throughout. They helped lead the charge to a win. They, saved the offense's skin early in that game. Thought the linebackers were generally good against a very athletic, fast Eagles team that likes to spread it out. But there were some blemishes. Better than the game against the Lions where there was some gap integrity issues for the 49ers. But they still need to be a bit better, so that's why I gave them the minus instead of the A+. We will now move on to the final position group, and I'm going to talk about special teams as well. Special teams is going to get an A+ in this game. You already know that. I don't even have a banner ready for that. But the 49ers DBs, B+. 49ers DB room looks like this. It was complicated, but the 49ers ultimately started Josh Norman. Emmanuel Mosley was still inactive and hurt, so instead of Emmanuel Mosley, the 49ers brought Diamador Lenore, who's also the backup nickel back in to start at that second cornerback position. There's a very good chance that Emmanuel Mosley is going to be ready to go again for the 49ers this week against the Packers. If he is back, I think you see Norman and Mosley at corner and Lenore as your fifth cornerback behind Norman, Mosley, and K'Wan Williams. Lenoir was good, except for the 91-yarder that he gave up to Quez Watkins. Other than that, I thought it was extremely impressive how somebody like a rookie like Lenoir was able to psychologically bounce back from giving up such a big play to lock down the Eagles for the rest of the game. Jalen Hurts might not be the greatest quarterback. There's a good offensive line there, and there are speedy receivers there. And I thought that Lenoir did a good job. I thought that Josh Norman did a good job too. The two penalties are not penalties to get overly upset about. There was one near the goal line, and there was one on the 49ers' first third down, or the Eagles' first third down conversion of the game, that I thought was a little ticky-tack. The one near the goal line, good call, but it did stop a touchdown on the play because Norman would have been beat on that play. For a 33-year-old cornerback who's going to be 34 this season, I don't think that was a bad showing from Josh Norman. And if I'm a 49ers fan, I would actually be confident that you don't see many more of those penalties. I think that was some first-game rust. So I liked how the 49ers corners played. You can't get an A when you give up a 90-plus yard play, and the 49ers and Lenoir did that to Quez Watkins. But the fact they get a B-plus and they're almost at A-minus range is because the safeties, Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt, were excellent in coverage downfield. Jaquiski Tartt almost ran down, or he did run down Quez Watkins to help the 49ers avoid giving up points on that play. And, just in general, you look at this 49ers secondary, and they kept the 49ers afloat in a game where the pass rush didn't take hold until the second half. For all this hand-wringing about how bad and the 49ers cornerbacks are and how John Lynch should have invested more in the defensive backfield, to me it looks like they've invested plenty. And this is even after Jason Verrett has been lost for the season. In a game where the pass rush wasn't at its best, the 49ers corners were able to get the job. I get it. There's going to be a bigger challenge potentially against Aaron Rodgers, especially if the pass rush doesn't get home. But I expect the 49ers to actually get after Aaron Rodgers because that's what happened the last time Nick Bosa was available against this football team. So I expect that to continue. And I also expect Josh Norman to only get better. Emmanuel Mosley to help the secondary. Deommodore Lenoir. I mean, this guy's a ceiling. And I think that we're just, now starting to climb toward it. I think there's a lot of improvement still left there for Deommodore Lenoir. And we haven't even talked about K'Wan Williams, who's one of the best nickels in football, who actually sniffed out that Philly special try from the Eagles. So the 49ers DBs played really well against Philly, guys. I mean, there's a lot of complaining and clickbait and, criticism just to be critical of the 49ers secondary, but they were good against the Eagles. Now let's see how they do it against Aaron Rodgers. You can always use help from your pass rush. Finally, obviously subscribe on YouTube. That's the next message here. But the 49ers special teams deserves a shout out. Punter Mitch Wishnowsky, NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. 3 punts inside the 20, 1 inside the 10. I thought Trenton Cannon was, didn't mess anything up on the kick returns. That was nice. You're seeing a rotation between Ayuk and Sanu at that punt return spot. And you're also seeing Robbie Gould hitting his field goals. So, and the kick coverage units, man, those are good. I mean, Sansom Ebukam is making plays. We haven't heard much from Sansom Ebukam yet as an edge rusher, but he's making plays on special teams, and Trenton Cannon had a nice stop there early on. So 49ers special teams, A+. They don't win it without them. They don't win it without Mitch Wishnowsky, I think, pinning the Eagles deep in that game at Philly. Maybe they do win, but boy, it's even closer for comfort, and it was already a tight margin for sure in that game. Anyway, that's the 49ers roster. I'm happy to have gone through it with you guys. I'll answer a couple questions, and then I need to go on a run, get a little bit of rest. You know how it is. I have to write some more, too. Ward will be all over Davante Adams. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you put the corner on him or if you put Jimmy Ward to help. I think you probably double Davante Adams a lot of times. Green Bay is going to have a talented receiving arsenal, though. It's the way you neutralize is that you don't let it get to that point. You win up front. I'll be really happy with Norman if we get more consistent reffing. Yeah, I mean, Josh Norman, he's a veteran coming off of a hiatus with no training camp, had some rust. Officials threw a couple flags, but other than that, he was locked down after the flags. He looked good. That's also true. They don't call those an Uncle Sherm. That's Richard Sherman reputation there for you. Let's see if the 49ers bring Richard Sherman back. He's working hard to try to make that comeback right now. Any more? I'm sure you guys asked some questions on the first one, but I wasn't able to answer. Sorry that the mic went out. But anyway, we have 2 of these videos up. tomorrow's going to be the 49ers and the Packers game preview. So today I focused on the state of the roster as it related to leaving Eagles week and entering Packers week. And tomorrow we're going to talk about this Packers game, which I think the 49ers are going to win. I think they're going to win by quite a bit because I think they have such an advantage on both lines of scrimmage. I actually talked about this on part one, so make sure you watch part one. I think Trey Lance is absolutely going to be a huge part of this Green Bay game plan because A, the Packers have a soft defense, B, it's a soft and injured defensive front, and C, the 49ers are out of running backs. They need to run the football somehow. I think Trey Lance gives you a weapon. Even if he's not running it, he's that read option decoy. You know, he could be that guy that draws the defense away. So I think we didn't see any of Trey Lance against the Eagles. That was not the right situation to use him. That was a Jimmy Garoppolo game against a good defense. Trey Lance, you put him in situations where you already have leverage. If you need to create leverage, you don't use an inexperienced rookie quarterback to do so. You use your accomplished veteran to create that leverage at the line of scrimmage. But in a game where you already have leverage and you're trying to exacerbate it, if you're trying to make it bigger, you're trying to really capitalize on, the fact that the Green Bay Packers aren't a good defense, and you want to take a 7-point advantage and turn it into a 21-point advantage. I think Trey Lance is your guy. I mean, Colin Kaepernick did it against the Packers in 2012 and 2013. Raheem Mostert ran all over him in 2019. I think Trey Lance could be this kind of straddles both of those lines that could work against the soft defense like the Packers. I think you're going to see a lot of Trey. I answered the questions about Ayuk in part one. So it's not because of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's because he's coming back from a hamstring. He's just not as good as Deebo Samuel right now. He doesn't have the rapport with the quarterbacks right now. He had 38 snaps. Brandon Ayuk will be back. This might be the week where he starts getting more catches. I don't know. But make sure you watch part one because this was a 2-part video. On YouTube, I talked there's offense. Might cut out right around the offensive line, so I picked it up here with part two. Enjoy both of them. Check out the Packers preview tomorrow, and please subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends to subscribe too. I'll tell you what, we get to 4K, I'll have a cool prize for you guys. I think we're at 3.4 right now. So if you tell people about it, this surges up. You hit that subscribe button. We'll have a nice little prize for a lucky YouTube viewer. All right, everybody, take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow.